Hi, this is Rahman Sheikh. Welcome to Fortnightly Railway Transportation Systems Podcast. I am the host and railway systems specialist working in this industry for 24 years and counting. This podcast is primarily focused on railway experts who have vast amount of experience and contributed greatly to this amazing industry. This is not a technical seminar but focuses on feel good stories, individual journeys, their success and failures, motivating younger generation to kickstart their career in railways and creating a sense of pride for the railway people who devoted their lives on the most environment friendly public transportation. This fortnight, we are delighted to introduce Lucia Capogna, a seasoned technical lead with over 15 years of experience in computer science engineering and systems engineering. Lucia is a recognized expert in railway cybersecurity, actively involved in standards like IEC 62433, TS 50701, and the new IEC 63452, currently under development. Her career has spanned cybersecurity management, software development management and assessment, as well as the assurance activities across the life cycle. Currently a team leader for the software and cyber at Sistra, United Kingdom, Lucia excels in standards such as TS 50701 and IEC 62443, but also software specific standards such as EN 50128, EN 50757 and near EN 50716. Her career highlights include key roles at Aegis Certification Services Limited and Aegis Engineering Systems, where she managed software assessments and cybersecurity processes for safety critical systems. Lucia's solid professional standards and proficiency in various tools make her a standout professional. We are thrilled to have Lucia Capogna on the podcast today for an insightful conversations about software engineering, cybersecurity, and more. Stay tuned for an engaging discussion. Hi, Lucia. Welcome to Railway Transportation Systems Podcast.
Hi, Raymond. Thank you very much for inviting me here today. It is greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Likewise, we really need people like you to come onto this podcast and share your insights with the younger generations as well as the professionals. So let us start with my first question. Can you tell us more about your journey into the field of computer science engineering and systems engineering? What initially sparked your interest in these areas?
Thank you, Raymond, for your question. To be fair, I have always been attracted by science and I have always been good in math, physics, and relevant disciplines. So it was a no-brain decision. I think I have taken the decision really to study and work in engineering when I was still in primary school. So engineering for me meant not only to learn the theory around science, but also to have the opportunity to make something potentially very innovative. This is the main reason why at the beginning I have opted for computer science engineering. Software at the time was clearly emerging in many contexts, and it's true today as well, isn't it? And at the time, I wanted to learn how to create good architectures and understand also the most critical aspects of this discipline. It was key for me. It was essential for what I wanted to do with my professional life. But during my journey in computer science engineering, I started being more curious about complex systems, of which usually software is part of. And in general, I wanted to understand how these systems are designed, analyzed, and controlled. Hence, the need to become more knowledgeable on system engineering. It is a very fascinating discipline that took me exploring advanced complex systems and to learn those innovative things like robotics and artificial intelligence that are on the mouth of everyone, isn't it? Especially artificial intelligence. But at the time was really, really innovative. We are talking about 20 years ago now. A journey that I would do again and again, probably the best choice of my professional life.
Wow, what a story. I completely agree with you. It's a great discipline, and artificial intelligence, yes, nowadays everyone talks. Nowadays even I heard something called artificial general intelligence. What is that?
Well, You caught me unprepared on that, to be honest. I don't know really, but there is so much going on. Actually, I'm part of a national mirror group that is called the GEL 96 here in the UK. And this group talks a lot about artificial intelligence as well as software. This didn't come out from our conversations, so I didn't go deep on the topic. Sorry,
Beautiful.
I cannot really help you on that.
No issues. Beautiful. We need to talk something out of this as well. Moreover, Lucia, you have an impressive background in software and railway cybersecurity. Could you share some of the most significant challenges and developments you have encountered in this domain over your career?
Oh, well, where to start? Software and cybersecurity are nowadays well known, and they are mostly accepted and part of systems we operate in railway applications. But in the rail context, software became a thing more than 20 years ago, really. But despite the use of software in many systems and the creation of dedicated standards around software, the industry slowly adapted to a new way of working. And sometimes this process was not a smooth process at all. So it was fundamental to change mindsets around software and the way of working when software was involved in safety-related functions. Cybersecurity arrived later and was not really regulated in rail until 2021, when the technical specification, the TS 50701, was issued by Senelec. Before the technical specification, the industry relied a lot on the IC, the 62443 and the NIST, and the industry took them as references, guideline to analyze those systems and evaluate the risks concerned with the cybersecurity. But those standards were not railway oriented, and this complicated things even more. So can you imagine? So we already have complex systems. We had complications on top of that. Moreover, people are used to work in a specific way. Change mindsets with this situation around becomes even more complex. So if I go back to my memories, just 10 years ago, the situation was quite different, not only in our private lives, but also in our professional lives. Software was used in safety critical systems, but not to the extent it is used today. And it was not given enough attention until it was too late. What I mean with that? I mean when just only after an incident occurred. It's not acceptable for the safety-related systems we manage. On top of that, there was the general idea that the usage of software wouldn't extend to specific critical system, high critical systems. I don't know why, but we now know. Time explained, showed us that those ideas were completely wrong. Software is used everywhere.
Correct.
My challenge has been really to share knowledge and make people sensible to potential issues when we have bad quality software. So, and I underline bad quality. It's a topic that is greatly underestimated. And even today, software is used everywhere. People do not think about what can go wrong when the software is involved. So actually, I also find that one of the most, let me say, dangerous things is when someone says, we have always done it in this way, as a justification for not complying with the standards or to have this structured approach. And the journey with cybersecurity was not so different at the end of the day. It actually is in a way very similar. And we are still at the beginning, though. So there is a lot to work on this area. Just consider that security is a process and not a state. So what does it mean? That the security is a state, and to achieve it or to have a reasonable reassurance, we have done enough. We need a strong process that starts from the concept phase of a system and ends with its dismission. So in a way, my biggest challenge overall has been to make people aware about the importance of those subjects, I mean software and cybersecurity, at the early stages of the project. Manage the software and the cyber aspect early in the life cycle means somehow to incorporate them in the process, manage the risk properly in due time. It also helps avoiding to rework and redesign the system later with all the relevant possible consequences like, reputational damages, but also safety issues that you can encounter, and even additional costs to fix the issues. So it's cheaper if you fix it at the beginning and not at the end.
Beautiful answer. It's not an easy job, Lucia. What you said, I completely agree. Attention, change mindset, around softwares is very important. We can't do what we used to do all the time. So we need to change, and we need to develop a process. Moreover, your involvement in standards like IEC 63452 and BSI Senelec committee membership for TS 50701 is remarkable. How do these standards impact the railway industry, and what's your role in shaping them?
Thank you. That is a great question, and it actually links very well with my previous answers too. So just to expand further on the topic, I decided to have an active role in shaping the future of software and cyber in rail applications, supporting those groups. So the SENELEC, that is the European one, and the international standards like the IEC, for instance. So standards are very often mandated by contracts or by legislation, and everyone cannot argue with that. However, from the end user, from the people that need to apply them, are seen as a burden or a cost. So in reality, they are guidelines and point of reference that help structuring the approach around these disciplines and enabling the creation of a safe and secure digital railway solution. So as mentioned before, having a structured approach from concept phase up to the dismission helps reducing risk and also to reduce the reworking costs. So it's not a burden, it's not a cost. I would like this message to pass by. So just to answer the first part of your question, the impact of these standards is very big. Actually, the TS 5071 represents the first effort to make a more secure rail. So a technical specification that combines the rail framework concept of a life cycle from the well-known 50126 and the cybersecurity principles and techniques that come from the 62443. That is a cybersecurity family of standards used for industrial automation. So it's really merging two different words in one. This is to facilitate the application of the principles in the rail industry. So being part of the standardization group since the creation of this group in December 2016 has given me the opportunity to influence the standard and to contribute into it with my personal and professional experience since the beginning. Working as expert in other standardization groups like the 50129 for safety protection system in general system and the 50128 that the safety, so it's the software standard for safety critical soft that now will be replaced by the 50716, helped considering possibly conflict with other disciplines too. It's not to be undervaluated how cyber can have a conflict with safety, for example, but also it's important to know how they can work together. So it has also been a learning experience for me, to be honest. Many experts are involved and a few of them put on the table different perspectives, so enlightening really. I concentrated my effort on putting things together, so I think if I have a skill is to have a big overview or to put together processes, and I wanted to make things consistent and clear across the life cycle. So I worked primarily in the life cycle area, so making sure that each phase of the life cycle had the right activities defined and allocated, but also the responsibilities clearly identified between the different stakeholders. When I talk about stakeholders here, I mean, the railway undertaking, the railway duty holder, or the asset owner, if you like, but also the integrator and the maintainer providers that are key in this life cycle. Another of my responsibilities was to clarify the relationship between safety and security, and I'm really proud that I led the subgroup responsible of this aspect. The new standard, the 63452, is still ongoing and takes the TS 5071 as input. This working group is more comprehensive, to be honest with you. It is not limited to European experts anymore, and it takes the standardization job to another level, to another dimension.
Global audience.
Yes, because there is everyone from Asia, US, Europe, really, no one is excluded, and experts are always welcome from every part of the world. But this gives a better view of how things can go wrong, but also how we can fix or improve what we have in our hands. So it's incredible. My role stayed very similar though, so in part because this gives a continuity with what has been done before. So working in the life cycle, responsibilities, and still giving a sort of check on the consistency across the standard stayed with me. So, and actually, I think I will do that in the future as well, because it's something that I also enjoy. It's not just a duty in that sense.
You will do it. Enjoying your job is more important. Just not doing job. If you enjoy your job, you will really love in doing it. You have actually shaped up quite well, and what an impressive answer. And I believe the standards do impact railway industry. As you said, it's not a burden and cost, but we need to be aware of the standards and follow the process. And moreover, while discussing, I want to take this further. Can you also share some insight into your role as a cybersecurity independent assessor, especially your work with NIST TS 50701 and IEC 62443 series?
Well, being an independent assessor means to have the responsibility to perform the last level of independent scrutiny on the process. So, but not only the process, also on the technical solutions, their compliance to the adopted standard, ultimately to provide confidence that the delivered solution is fit for its intended use. So the independent assessment covers different aspects usually. Is safety, can be software, can be cybersecurity, but can be other stuff. So it's all together. They must give a full reassurance on the system. So they must be quite comprehensive in a way. Assessment give reassurance, give confidence throughout the full development of a complex system. Well, when looking into the cybersecurity assessment specifically, I can guarantee that is one of the most difficult things to assess. Is that it's the nature of the discipline itself that makes it quite different, because you need to look into different angles. You need to consider all of them. What do I mean? So you have the technical solution that can be affected by flaws in the design or in the implementation, but you have also the specific technology that has specific characteristics. How do you make sure that the risk assessment has been done properly, everything has been considered as it should be considered? But also you need to look into the policies, procedures, the response, recovery plan. So there is a lot, even the physical protection of the assets. So what if someone got access to the network? So what is the potential damage that can be done? What kind of confidentiality breach you can risk? So this makes the assessment work very intensive. And for sure, it's not a solo job, needs a pool of people that works around the topic. It is also rewarding though. So the NIST guidelines specifically work very well with other standards or with the TS 50701. So actually the NIST is even mentioned by the TS itself. So when looking into the threat landscape, you will see that there is a bit of guideline, one of which points to the NIST or the ISO 27005. So the IEC 62443 is even more used at the moment, because rail didn't have anything a few years ago, right? We said it before. So everyone tried to use the 62443 family, but it's a massive family of standards. And the main part that are applied by rail are specific to the risk assessment and the product development. So again, it's quite an intensive job, this assessment. It's huge. It's really intensive.
I do agree, Lucia. Similar linked question. So do you have like a checklist and a traceability matrix, and do you use any special tools in your cybersecurity independent assessment process?
I do definitely. First thing, I need to consider what is the standard that is given as input. So the assessment needs to rely on something. The first thing, we need to check what is the standard, what is the version of the standard that is applied. Based on that, I create, or I use what I created for previous projects, a sort of checklist. It is a breakdown of the standard for the main and critical parts, but I don't limit to that. You cannot limit it to a checkbox job, the assessment. I need to go deep on each topic and make sure that every aspect has been considered. Just to make an example, let's suppose that you are using a specific protocol for the communication. Have you considered any weakness that has been discovered before? Do you have any patch management, or do you have any additional protection? Are you using security by design? Are you using in-depth protections? So what are you doing will change the way the system is assessed under the cybersecurity point of view. So it's not just a checkbox evaluation, definitely. But yeah, I use a checklist. It's essential in our job because it helps us to have a structured approach too. And and to don't miss points. So we are human too and subject to errors as well. So
Yeah, I
we
do
need to
agree.
make sure we reduce the risks there.
Yeah, what a great chat with you, Lucia. Thanks for coming on this podcast. Apart from doing independent assessment, let's go back to the development stage in the product. So, your extensive experience in software development and configuration management and verification and validation is noteworthy. So, before assessment, we do all this. Could you explain how these aspects contribute to safety critical systems such as those in railways?
Good question, Raymond. I have been lucky in my career so far. I have seen and worked in different roles across the software development lifecycle, and all the activities are key, really. There are no activities more important than others, if it makes sense. So, from planning to requirements management, configuration control, and so on. So, up to the V&V activities, all of them are fundamental to obtain a good quality software solution. The configuration management, in particular, must be done to all the items, must be managed for all the items and across each phase of the life cycle, but also across multiple software releases when software is in a maintenance stage. So defining a good procedure on that aspect, it's important. Keep in mind also that the configuration of the software and the hardware is also key for the compatibility management. And we know how many problems we have out there for the compatibility. So I had the opportunity to work directly on the definition of the procedures for the configuration management. There are a lot of references out there that can help, but also you need to look into the actual specific project and in the organization itself to make something that is useful and easy to use for people. I strongly believe that if something is too complex to be used, people are not doing it. So let's make the life easier to people and they will follow the procedures. So this is my a sort of mantra, not exactly my only mantra, but so
It's a great mantra.
It's so important that even the V&V is looking into it. So talking about verification and validation, again, one of my favorite topics, really, I enjoyed the journey on these disciplines. It is nearly impossible for people that are delivering requirements or design solution to spot issues in their deliverables, isn't it? So, or to capture the inconsistencies with the processes and the standards, because you work in a way and you think is the right way of doing things. So what you need is someone that is independent from what you have done, that is not biased from your way of working, that is looking into what you have done to make sure that you followed the quality procedures, that you followed the standards, and that you have something that is consistent, not contradictory, but also complete. So you cannot do this job alone. You need someone from the V&V. And to be honest, this aligns very well with the assessment job. It's a sort of additional scrutiny that you add on top. It's very similar. It's more deep, more technical than the assessment be, and gives the opportunity to learn a lot about the domain. So really, it's incredible. Look, just a consideration around the validation job. So the validation role, it's really difficult and full of responsibilities. And I felt those responsibilities at a certain point of my career. Why is that? Because the person in this role is responsible to confirm that the software is ready to be released and to state if there is any limitation given its intended use. So it's a huge responsibility, especially if we talk about safety critical systems. Again, rewarding but difficult.
I do agree. It is rewarding and you do enjoy. I was a V&V engineer with Ansaldo earlier. I know the implications. It's a beautiful role, lots of responsibilities, and it was great chatting, Lucia. We spoke about standards, we spoke about guidelines, we spoke about independent assessment, we spoke configuration management, software development, V&V, lots of stuff. Now let's go to one of my other favorite area. You as a certified ISTQB tester, what role does software testing play in ensuring quality and reliability of software in the railway industry?
Well, the testing is supporting the verification according to the standards we apply, isn't it? Software testing is essential. Now, what we know about software is that it's subject to systematic failures. It's quite a temperamental software, isn't it? Actually, it's context dependent. I play a lot with the temperamental bit. It's context dependent. So, given a specific context, we should always perform an extensive testing campaign to make sure we capture as many defects as possible, okay? But it's there is a principle around software that we don't have to forget. You cannot test everything. It's nearly impossible. It would take something like 300 years. Okay.
Correct.
So what we have to do? We have to select the right techniques. We have to make sure that we are doing the job in an intelligent way to reduce the risk around the specific areas. Here it comes ISTQB. My mantra has been really, my real mantra is that if you need to do a job, you need to understand the technical aspects of that job. So you need to learn first. Otherwise, you are just doing things as they have been always done. You're not evolving from what you have done before. This is why I went through this certification, because it gave me additional tools, additional knowledge around how to plan, how to organize, how to group testing, what kind of techniques can be used. This, together with the 50128, actually gave me a view of how we can work to reduce the risk. Now, no one will guarantee, never ever, at least not in this moment of, in this century at least, that the software is flawless, okay?
Correct, yeah.
Or is bug-free. But we can do our best to increase the quality of the software through testing, discovering as much as possible the issues so that we can release a better quality thing. So going through this certification and applying the principles as part of my job has boosted the confidence on the testing and the verification area, really. It has given me this additional tool that can be even used as an assessor. So if you understand what you are assessing, you have a chance to do a better job.
Yeah, wow, Lucia, it is pleasure talking to you. You know, I lined up so many questions, but I really don't have so much of time on this podcast, but I'll try to squeeze more and more questions so that our audience can learn from you. So there is one, I'm going to merge two questions into one now. You have also held a position of head of software and cybersecurity at Aegis Certification Services Limited. Can you share when you were involved in software assessments and software documentation, how does this documentation impact the safety and reliability of safety critical systems?
Well, probably from my accent is quite evident I'm not British English, right? So I'm Italian, and 10 years ago I decided to move my personal and professional life in the UK. Joining Aegis Engineering System and Certification Services are two companies in the same group. So started with engineering system and build the service from scratch. So the company wanted to go in that direction. The company wanted to work more and offer services into the consultancy side for software, but they didn't have experts. So me joining the company was a win-win situation for both of us. So I started with baby steps, prepared the training courses for both software standards, documentation, and whatever. But we developed also strategy. So we wanted a specific target of the market. So we focused on software assessment at the beginning, and we won a lot of clients. So time gave us the confirmation we did all the right things. We didn't compromise on quality, but still we tried to optimize our time and the resources from both our side and client side. So time is money, and time is essential. So we need to give a benefit to our client. Actually, time gave us the confirmation we did the right steps. Software and cybersecurity are essential on their own, but even more important in the context of safety critical systems. So I had the opportunity to work with the main players in the UK. It has been a great experience, really. Roscos, talks, OEMs, but also with suppliers. And I had the honor to work on key projects like the Aventra, Crossrail, level crossing projects, and other signaling projects across this country. But also I had the opportunity to support overseas projects, Europe, US, Asia, and both as assessor, but also as a technical expert supporting their process, improving their process, supporting their documentation or specific area of their job. So I managed the team. I led a team of experts in both disciplines, and it has been so rewarding. All these projects, all the things I've done have something in common. What is that? The documentation.
Yeah.
The documentation. The application of the main railway standards, actually. The main railway standards for safety critical system have a top-down approach. And they are documentation-based. The evidence that the activities have been performed as requested by the standards and by the planning documentation shall be recorded, because they need to be available for scrutiny as well, to make sure we did the right thing, that we didn't neglect any aspects. But everything shall be also traceable back to the source in a way that if there is an incident, we have a possibility to perform a root cause analysis. Or if there is a change, we have the possibility to evaluate an impact assessment to evaluate the impact analysis around the change, what is the possible consequence. Hence, the documentation is really fundamental in our environment, Raymond.
It is everywhere. I think everywhere nowadays they are standardizing. While we are still with the same topic and with AG's engineering systems, just quickly run through the development of documents management and documents approval management system database.
Why these two aspects are critical? So when we talk about a database that manages both the configuration as well as the approval process, we need to think, why is it there? It's to avoid human errors again. So the approval process in particular links with the responsibility across the organization, as well as the competencies and the seniority of the individuals involved in the process. So I do not expect a document to be approved by a junior person in the company. Okay. So the database aimed to reduce the possibility to introduce human errors in configuring the documents themselves, but also in allocating people to the approval process as reviewers or approvers. The development of the internal tools usually are not really structured, but I'm trying to change people's mindset, I said before, and I didn't want to commit that error. So I started with the elicitation of the requirements, going through specific talk with key people in the organization, but also I did a sort of gathering between standards, internal procedures, and so on. Once I had all the requirements together, I discussed them with people that were involved in the process, really, in the definition of the process, to make sure I didn't miss anything or that I didn't introduce errors in my assumptions. And I designed it. I actually designed the system using semi-formal methods so that people could go through them and review the system itself. It's a system that I wanted to be last-longing somehow in the organization, and actually it's still in use. So this gave me really a rewarding element. So it's easy to use, and the people do not have a lot of struggle with it. So it's not an additional step that takes time. It's something that supports the process.
Beautiful answer. I'm really thrilled. If I get a chance, I will go through some of your tools with you one day. However, I want to ask one of the other key questions. This is, I think, the most important question I would like to ask, and I have merged it again, two questions into one. As a deputy department head in the vehicle testing department at Bombardier Transportation, what were the key responsibilities and challenges in ensuring the safety compliance of locomotive systems, plus highlight your vital role in successful development of testing of high-speed trains and locomotives, and how did you contribute to this process during your time at Bombardier Transportation?
Well, my journey in Bombardier Transportation was great. I smile when I think about that experience because it was really rewarding. So I enjoyed every single moment and every role I covered in that organization. I actually started as a requirements manager there and tool administrator. However, my experience in the software development field and in the verification and validation area opened to new opportunities in the organization. So covering the different roles for different projects boosted my knowledge in the rail industry. My background is not rail. My background is defense, renewable energy, and oil and gas. So when I moved into rail, I had to learn new terminology. I had really to readapt my brain to a different domain. So everything was pretty new at the beginning, but at least the terminology and the domain was something I could manage through this experience. So really working in Bombardier meant to work also in an international environment. So it's not limited to a single country when you join an organization like this. So you are involved in international projects, international teams. So, and not only locomotives really, but also high speed. So actually going back to my memories, one of the main projects I was involved with was the ETR 1000, also known as a Frecciarossa, that has been developed for the Italian market at the beginning. For this project, I was the VMV coordinator, and I managed the software documentation and the relationship with the software assessor at the time. Really made me much more knowledgeable than I was before. So as a requirements manager, I was even promoted as a lead requirements manager. But again, I was involved in shaping the processes for the VMV, for the locomotive division of the site I was working for. So I had to decide what kind of role I want to do. You know that the requirements manager cannot be the VMV for the same project. So, and I couldn't keep struggling and juggling between projects. So I had to decide. So I moved into the dark side of our job, the VMV. So I think this was really really important for me for my professional development. I opted for the BMB side then. So more specifically for the vehicle level verification and validation. So moving from the software or component level into the system level was a big step, but I really enjoyed it. So this made me to be promoted as deputy department head for the vehicle testing department that was based in Switzerland, but is a department that is really distributed between the three countries, Italy as well as Switzerland as Germany. So I had experts that were working from different parts of the Europe. So my responsibility was really to support the head department in managing people, projects, but also, and the most important role I had was to define the procedure for the vehicle testing, how we incorporate the testing, how we manage them, what kind of testing are important, what are the sources, how we do the traceability, but much more really. It was a huge job that I enjoyed up to the end. Then personal life took me to this country, to the UK, but I would have loved to continue working in that role, to be honest.
You would.
Yes.
Wow, Lucia, what an answer. The excitement in your answers and your smile and your love for your work is really amazing. The more than the answers, the way you answers and the love you bring into your work is really inspiring me, and hopefully it inspires many others. We need people like you in this organization.
Thank you, Raymond.
Railways.
I really invest a lot in young generations. I'm a STEM ambassador, so I try to go to schools and to share this enthusiasm with them. I hope it works.
Yes, it does. It does. And finally, my final question, tell us about your role as a specialist engineer at Tiorisi SPA. I hope I pronounced it correctly.
Yeah,
and,
that's fine.
and how your contributions affected the locomotive division's projects. That was the most challenging aspect of your work there.
Well, I never had the chance to thank this company for giving me the opportunity to move in the railway environment. Well, I'm doing it today. Thank you, Teoresi, because before that, I was working in another industry, the defense industry specifically. I was a software and system specialist, and this gave me the opportunity to apply the same principles across different industries, the industry that I belong to today, rail. So it's an industry that I never have left after that. So I think it was a good match, me and this industry. So my contribution to the locomotive division has been greatly appreciated at the time because I had a sort of a fresh view on the issues they were facing around software and system integration. I also supported the innovation of the processes that were applied at the time. So bringing with me good practice from my previous experience. So the biggest challenge anyway was to learn again and understand the railway domain. It's a very complex domain. So, and the principles may apply across different industries, but the understanding of the specific domain aspects is fundamental to make those principles effective. So this was my challenge, my learning curve, but also was something that took me where I am today.
Beautiful.
It's an initiation to the rail industry. So
wow.
I really enjoyed that job as well.
Keep enjoying, Lucia. It's been pleasure talking to you, and I really enjoyed discussing with you. Thank you for your time, for joining this podcast and sharing your valuable insights.
Thank you for having me, Raymond. Really, I enjoyed this conversation so much. You made me laugh and smile throughout my memories. Thank you very much.
Welcome. I believe everyone listening to this podcast has got something to take away from today's discussion. If you like this podcast, please listen, follow, and share this podcast within your network. If you believe we should be sharing your story or someone within your network, there is a railway leader who should be here sharing his or her contribution to this industry, contact me on railwaytransportationsystems@gmail.com. Thank you for your time today. See you next fortnight. Until then, stay safe and take care of yourself.